Good afternoon, everyone. Coach Keon Smith here from Action Coach Guyana, where we grow good businesses into great businesses. Today, we are going to be having a webinar entitled Becoming a Master of Networking. And this webinar is going to be geared at helping you to understand some of the science behind networking, tips that you can use to improve your networking. And I understand, many persons run from networking because they're shy and they're fearful of rejection. So I want you to stay tuned today. Make sure that you have your notebook and your pen available. If you're not going to be taking notes the traditional way, you have your notepads on your cell phones or whatever you're going to use to type, and make sure that you take as much notes as possible. We have persons who are going to be in our Zoom room for this particular webinar, and we're also uh, simulcasting on our social media platforms. So if you have any questions that you like for me to respond to, please don't be afraid to put those questions in the comments. My tech team will ensure when the time is ready that I can respond to those questions. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to invest in your personal development, in your personal growth. So I should say congratulations, rather. And this is, one of the things that separates the high performers from the persons who are always complaining that life is so hard. It's all about how do you invest your time and what do you invest your time doing that will make the biggest difference. All right. So whether we have a vehicle, a house, those are not our most valuable asset. Time is, and investing it wisely will give you the returns that you're looking for in the long run. So let's get straight into our session today, and we're going to dive into dissecting networking. And it is imperative that we first start off with having an understanding of what networking is. And while we may have various definitions in our head, I'm going to share the one that we have as for this webinar. So, networking is all about developing a strategy for meeting, that's one, and conversing with like-minded professionals. Persons who are looking to promote their company, an idea, a product, or it could be a service. So I'm going to repeat that for those who are taking notes. It's a strategy developed for meeting and conversing with, and I want you to underline this, write it in bold, mark it down, like-minded professionals. And they're all looking to promote their company, they're looking to promote their ideas, products, and or the services that they have to offer. Now, the two most common ways professionals network, they network in-person networking. This is what we call it, and it could be at an event, an industry event. We have mixers, business mixers, as we call them, or they're part of particular group and or organization. In addition, they can network via online networks. This is really using social media platforms such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, sometimes even Instagram. And even today, we made to understand that with what is happening with the world right now amidst COVID-19, social media platforms, they are becoming like second nature. It's almost as if we would have went through a metamorphosis over the last 6 months, 6 to 8 months, dealing with COVID-19 and really advancing our use of technology and these different social media platforms. As many events and or activities were relegated to the social media platform. So get very familiar with it. I don't think it's going anywhere in the short term. that is regards to COVID, which means that we have to make use of technology as best as we can. So this particular event today is going to be focused on in-person networking, and I'm going to touch a bit on online networking. So we want to make sure that you have an understanding of both forms of networking, as they're very important when it comes to making connections, especially with the persons that we want to target, or target audience, or target group, so that we can create those connections and then keep those engagements going for a very long time. So the big question is, when it comes to networking, is, why should we mingle? Now, many of us are socially shy. Sometimes we feel that we are extremely busy based on our schedules, that doesn't permit us to join a networking event. But we need to take a step back and understand that the benefits for investing the time to put ourselves out there could mean making those connections necessary to grow our businesses. It can be to grow our client base. It can be to grow ourselves as individuals, whether we're trying to sell an idea for a product or a service, or both. So it is very important to keep in mind that there are many, many benefits of networking, and more specifically, there are lots of added benefits for in-person engagement. Many of us would love to hide behind a screen or a camera such as this one, because you're not face to face with the individual. I don't believe, you don't feel the pressure of having to make sure that everything is perfect in that conversation. But when you're in person, there are lots of benefits to begin from putting yourself out there. Number one, improve communication or communication. So in-person communication gives people, or gives you rather, the opportunity to, first of all, be able to identify nonverbal cues when meeting new people, and not only being able to identify them, but it also helps you to read those nonverbal cues. So being face to face with someone also increases the likelihood that your message will come across as you have intended. We also have to keep in mind that on these different platforms, when we're using social media platforms, for example, like Zoom, and persons have their cameras off, it is very difficult for you to, one, see their facial reactions, which are sometimes which are the nonverbal cues. It is unlikely you get to see their body language. Definitely, you don't know if they're actually listening to you or not. So I'm going to take a quick test here to the persons who are in the Zoom room. If you are still listening to what I'm saying, please put a thumbs up on your screen in the Zoom room, and I'll let the audience on the social media platforms know what the results were. All right, good. All right. So definitely, guys, if you take a look at it, you always have to make sure that once you're networking online, that you keep the conversation very engaging, especially if you're doing it across with multiple persons on the same platform, so that you can ensure that they're paying attention to what you are actually saying. So being face to face with them also helps you to really connect. I think it helps in ensuring that that connection is actually made with the individual. Number two, it builds better teams. So attending a networking event increases the opportunity for in-person, thank you, Rennie, for in-person meetings with companies and groups. So you actually get a feel of, the culture, what kind of persons you'll be dealing with when you have to deal with this particular company, or you're dealing with this organization. So it really helps you to understand that aspect of the culture of the people that you have to deal with when you're networking. Number three, you're better able to demonstrate your value. So it is one thing to read about it, to read about a company's potential or the potential, or to read about a potential client, just reading up on them. But it's something way different when you're actually meeting in person. So it gives you the opportunity to pitch, whether it's your business, whether it's your product, your idea, in a very uh, semi-casual and conversational way. And it, it really leads me back to understanding uh, how business deals are made. And very often you would hear business deals are either made, some of the biggest deals are made over drinks. Sometimes some of the biggest deals are made on the golf course. And I know that golf is not traditionally a sport that Guyana is accustomed to, notwithstanding there've been an upsurge in interest in the particular sport, given the transformation of the transformation our country will be going through, and the persons will be attracting to our country, and that being their national sport in some respect. So there's been a lot of interest now in golf. So it is sometimes through these mediums, through these semi-casual, very conversational gaps that some of the biggest deals and ideas are exchanged between individuals. So with those tips, what demonstrates your value, build better teams, you understand the culture, it improves communication. Those are some of the added benefits of having in-person networking happening versus just doing it online. Now, the whole idea is that when you go to a networking event, you have to keep in mind, what does networking actually achieve? What does it help us to do? Now, there are many, many, many benefits to networking, and they go beyond the initial meeting of like-minded individuals. It allows you to market yourself, and marketing yourself, your company, your products, and or your service is probably the biggest reason to network. And by attending these events, it also allows you to build relationships. And there's a saying that I absolutely love, and you will want to write this down. Your network determines your net worth. Your network determines your net worth, which means surround yourself with the people who can add value to you, and persons you can add value to, because that begins to really expand those relationships. And who knows the opportunities that they might refer you to, given the fact that you would have done something fantastic for them. And we're not talking about nepotism here, people. We're talking about already demonstrating value via your expertise. It could be through your leadership or what you promise to do, you're actually getting it done. So it can open new doors, definitely new opportunities. It helps you to gain support of the network. It could be support for a particular project. It could be something you might want to do as a CSR, corporate social responsibility. It could be some philanthropy work that you want to get done. Once you build those networks, they can provide the necessary support that you may need. It also is very good for introducing new ideas, fresh ideas, out of the box ideas, and your network can help you, as we say in Guyana, flesh it out. So it allows them to give their input on the idea and help to make that idea stronger. So you're collectively using the brain power of the group versus trying to do it on your own. Because as the saying goes, one of us is not as smart as many of us. So we want to make sure that we use our network in that regard. I was just paraphrasing that. And finally, it really helps you to increase visibility. Be on the public scene, get known. People understand what you do, so it makes it easier for them to actually support you. So we're going to be diving in now to look at some great networking options. And if you have options that you want to share, whether it's in our Zoom room or on our social media platforms, please go ahead. We're all here to learn and to educate each other. So when we think about where to network, all right, so there are lots of networking opportunities, whether it be, in our community, it can be from professional meetups or social gatherings. And when I use the term community, we're not necessarily referring to the traditional meaning of the word, which is the community in which you live, but I would use the term community a bit more expansively to look at where you live, where you work, the people you associate with, the organizations you're a part of. I believe all of those form part of your community in one way or the other. So think about those opportunities that you might take for granted that can turn into fantastic networking opportunities. If you also think about networking online, you can think about various business support organizations. If you're part of if you're a business, you're part of those organizations. You can network through the social groups that businesses have or that organizations have online. And on Facebook at this time, I believe you can find a group for almost any cause that you can think about. If you want to support puppies, I'm sure there's a group for that. If you're interested in selling masks, I'm sure there are many groups for that. I think if you're interested in almost anything, there is a group for it on Facebook. And that just speaks to how dynamic and how expansive the social media platforms currently are, more specifically Facebook. So think about networking online. And just in the event that you don't find a group because your idea is so unique, it is so different, then create your own group, right? If you can't find what you're looking for, then the next best thing to do is to create it. And I know that's a saying somewhere, just can't remember where it's from. But think about what you want to do and start looking for places, activities, events where you can actually network and connect with other persons. Now that you define a great place to connect, the next step is to make sure that we're prepared for that event. And in preparing for a networking event, we sometimes need to think outside of the box. And we've heard this term so many times, especially when it regards to critical thinking, but it applies to almost every aspect of your life. So think about, another great way to network is to consider the options outside of your business target. And, sometimes finding that perfect contact, the person that can really help you to move forward, sometimes that individual would be outside of your business atmosphere, right? So you always have to think and consider the opportunities that you're getting is not always going to be straightforward as says, here I am. You have to look and seek out those opportunities. So outside of your business atmosphere, it could be at sporting events. It might be at a book club if you're part of that. It could be at a social gathering, a family gathering, event you attended at a friend's house. So it's being always prepared to seek out those opportunities. And they're all very, very fantastic ways of meeting like minded individuals based on mutual interests, activities, hobbies, etc. So if you can take the time to just think about what are some other not so common places for networking, And we're not saying that you need to, you know, some people take it to the next level. We're not saying we're going to go to the washroom, you're going to try to network with somebody in the washroom. You definitely have to make sure you pick your moments because everybody is not as comfortable having washroom chronicles like others. So you want to make sure that you don't violate anyone's privacy and make them feel uncomfortable because it will defeat the purpose of actually connecting with that individual. Now, once you've determined where you're going to go to network, it is important that you develop a plan. I know you might be thinking, develop a plan for networking. Yes, if you go to a networking event without a plan, without goals, then you're just going for the free beverages, in some cases, the food, and just to say that you were there. It is important that you develop this plan, seek out your goals when you're attending these networking events. So you want to make sure that you uh, give yourself a high chance of success. And this happens when you show up with a plan and you're committed to it. So working out your plan of execution should start by asking yourself, and I have to, say this word correctly, what do I hope to accomplish? So you can even add to this, who would you like to speak to? How many persons would you like to have conversation with? How many business cards would you like to have moving away from that networking event? And with those questions, those helps you to formulate your plan. So from there, you want to consider these other steps for your plan, get very clear on the goals for the event, identify your needs and interests. So know clearly what you would want to articulate at that particular networking event. And it is important to develop this plan, this strategy based on whether it's a formal event or an informal event. So it all depends on which type of event it is. It will, have an impact on how you execute your plan. Now that you've actually, gone to the event, you have your plan in mind, you need to start thinking about your pitch. How are you going to be pitching your idea, your product or your service or even your company to the person that you meet at the networking event? So let's dive into finding your pitch. When networking, it is imperative to have a brief overview of the business, the product, the service that you want to, have people become interested in, and you want to be prepared as possible for making those introductions to prospective, partners, prospective investors, or prospective persons in your network. So the synopsis is often referred to as what they call an elevator pitch. So it means that you are really diving into making that pitch as succinct as possible, and keeping in mind that the person should be able to do this successfully, pitch their ideas within 30 seconds to a minute. Within 30 seconds to a minute. And generally, this is the length of time, and this is why it's called an elevator pitch. This is the length of time it takes to get from one point to another on the elevator on average. We're saying this is the average time. So you want to be able that if you are in that elevator and you do see the opportunity, you must not be stuttering, or not finding the words. You're lost in thoughts because you're trying to fine tune a 20-page document in just 30 seconds. You've never done it before. So the whole idea is to really have that pitch prepared. So we're going to look at some key points when it comes to constructing a successful elevator pitch. I'm going to ask if there are any persons in the chat who are online with a business idea, a product or a service that you want to launch. You're currently in a business and you have to do a pitch. At the end of the tips that you're going to get today, I would love for you to post your pitch in the chat. It's just a few lines, and I'm going to give you some guidance to do that. So you would want to work on fine tuning your pitch. So because an elevator pitch is meant to be concise, it is very, very critical for you to work on your pitch ahead of time, especially if you're going to an event. Once you're prepared ahead of time, it keeps you from, being long-winded, or we call it, from meandering chatter. You want to keep that down to a minimum. And this really allows you and ensures that you come across as confident as possible, and the message you're actually delivering to your intended target, whether it's an individual or targets, you want to make sure that that message is absolutely clear. So there are some key things that your pitch should include. Number one, an introduction to who you are. So who are you? It is imperative that you let the person know who you are and add your designation to it, whether you're the CEO, you're the chief technical officer, whatever position you hold, that is going to allow you to demonstrate to that individual the reason why they should actually listen to anything else you have to say after those initial words. So that is where we position our authority, giving them the reason why they should actually listen to us. So you're going to first say who you are, and then you're going to say to them what you do. And this is usually a very, very ticklish part of the pitch. Because if you just say, let's do photography. If you just say what you do, we take pictures. That is a very common response, and it does not capture their attention, because they will then put you almost immediately in the bracket with all the other photographers. And in fact, they might even put you in the bracket with their grandmother, because she has an iPhone that she can take out pictures. So she's a photographer as well. So it is very imperative when you're saying what you do to have a sentence that really encapsulates what your business does in terms of what does it actually provide, what problem does it solve. So think about it. Next, you want to have a very short but detailed description about your company. And I know it sounds like an oxymoron. How could it be short and detailed at the same time? But you can be able to put that into a very short, crisp sentence that allows them to really understand your company. You may want to also let them know who your target base is, or probably your current clientele. And definitely this helps them to understand that if it's an existing business that you already have clientele, if it's a new business idea, that you have a good understanding of who you want to target. And they'll be able to make that connection in that space of time between what you do or what problem you solve and who your target is, if it's actually the right target that you're going after. Then you can add, what is it that sets you apart from similar companies or even similar brands to yours. So what makes you unique? And this is really where, as a company, you need to work on identifying what we call your USP, your unique selling proposition, your unique selling point. If you're not able to do that and you need assistance from us, you can always reach out and we can have that conversation if you need help identifying what is unique about your business. And to learn more and have a better understanding of that particular concept, we usually have our six steps seminar. Also, another great opportunity for networking. And this is going to be next Tuesday. Yes, next week Tuesday starts at 4:30 p.m. So look out for that information. Look out for the link. Click on it. A great way also to network online, and especially if you are a business owner, you know, and you're looking to really grow your business. Perfect opportunity for you to join that particular session. So it's if you do have the time, you can also then include your company goal or your company goals, something interesting about your company or something interesting about the brand, and what is your motivation that you have, your passion, because this helps to really hook the person onto the idea. We want to make it as impactful as possible, so that even if they don't respond immediately, every step they make after hearing us, they should be thinking about us. All right, so you want to make it impactful as possible. Once you've worked on building out the pitch, the next step would be for you to, learn the pitch and be perfect at it. So, like anything that you're doing that you want to get better at, it takes practice, practice, practice. Right? There's no magic wand. There's no machine that can store information in our memory. We need to learn it, and practicing really helps us to hone our skills. So, how you deliver your pitch is just as important as what you say. So, you want to practice your pitch enough times, even if you have to go stand in front of the mirror and repeat it. Uh, Gather your family members, and that's the beauty about having family members. They are morally obligated to listen to you. So you can tell them, please sit down, listen to what I have to say, but also encourage them to be honest. And I believe sometimes the best group to have listen to you are children between the ages of, I would say, 6 to maybe just about 10. Six is old enough for them to comprehend. And please do not underestimate your 6 year olds now, right? They are far smarter than we were when we were six, if you're my age. And I'm a very, very young man. Now, keep that in mind. Their children are brutally honest. And if you make a pitch in front of them and they don't like it, they will tell you right off the bat. Don't be upset. It means go back to the drawing board. Don't even argue. Right? So pitch in front of your family so that you can have a good idea as to what you need to say, how you need to say it, time yourself, make sure it's as succinct as possible. And that in itself would give you that, good feeling. You want to make sure you're as natural as possible when you're speaking to the prospect. So you want to sound conversational and not like you're delivering an aggressive sales pitch, right? Because people love to buy, but nobody likes to be sold to. Um, you know, Once you're working on the pitch, it is then important to make sure that you work on your body language. So when we say throw your bodies into it, not literally throw yourself on the person, but you want to make sure that your body language cues are on point. And these are some things to take note of and to look for when you're practicing your pitch. You want to focus, first of all, on your stance. Your stance by itself exudes confidence or lack of confidence. So when you are in a room, you want to be standing in a open, welcoming position. And I'm not saying stand up with your arms like this, wide open, and expect people to just come and talk to you. It must be in a position where people they're not afraid to come and have a conversation with you. Your arm position, which are these, your arms should not be folded in any manner that kind of shuts the people out, make you look very closed in, because people are going to see it and they're not going to want to approach you. And if for some reason you are those expressive persons, calm, open demeanor. So generally, I don't know if you can see my hands clearly, you should be in a position like this when you're speaking and not pointing or frailing all about the place. An open palm generally, suggests or exhibits peace and calm and a welcoming demeanor when you're having a conversation. Also, keep in mind your expressions. And I'm going to put this out there because I don't have anybody in the room, but there are particular gender that they're gifted when it comes to facial expressions. All right. So you should always ensure that you maintain an engaging and active expression that indicates your interest in the conversation, especially when the other person is speaking. You don't want to be when somebody's speaking that you are, your face are making these involuntary movements where you're lifting your eyebrow, you're frowning your face, we're making all of these animated facial expressions. Then it tells the person that either what they're saying is not of interest to you, you think that they're disgusting. There's so many different assumptions that comes from the facial expression, and generally kills that networking connection. So we want to make sure that we keep our expressions as engaging and as expressive as possible, but again, not where it's distracting. You want to work on maintaining eye contact. Eye contact is so important. It lets the person know that you are interested and you're actively participating in the conversation. So please be mindful of what we call the straying eyes. You can't be talking to somebody here and you're looking over to another part of the room, or you're looking down on the floor and you're not connecting with that individual. So you want to make sure that your eye contact is on point. And you can also work on the handshake. And I know that handshaking isn't going to be, uh, I should say, a thing for now, given COVID-19. So if you want to work on your uh, elbow bumping, as you call it, you want to make sure that you don't do it in such a way that hurts the other person. And whenever you're back to handshaking, you want to ensure that your grip matches each other. And there's so many different clues that comes from a simple handshake. So many clues. Right? If somebody holds your hands and turn it down a little, it demonstrates that they are telling you that they're the dominant person. They're persons who match grip strength to each other. So that demonstrates if you think that you're confident, so am I. There's those persons that allow when you shake their hands to go wimp. So when you shake it, it's almost like you're squeezing their hand. It means that they're passive. They're not confident. They don't know what to expect, especially if they're speaking to somebody who might be considered as an industry leader. So all of these different clues we have to keep in mind to make sure that we can read them, we can understand them when we're attending these networking events. In addition to throwing your body into it, understanding these clues, you also have to keep in mind that whilst you're at a networking event, there is something that we call the closed to and the open to. Now, when you're networking, you might see that two persons are already engaged in a conversation. If the person, if one of the persons engaged in that conversation is somebody that you have on your list, that's a person that you want to talk to, you would have to observe if the two persons have a closed group or a slightly open group. If there is a closed group, they're going to be standing almost face to face. And with COVID now, you will still have to observe the physical distancing protocols, but you'll find that the person will be standing face to face and almost deadlock with each other, and they're deep in that conversation. That is what we call a closed two. If at a networking event you see they're almost slightly ajarred in this manner, that is called an open to, which means that a third person, which is here, can come in and join the conversation. And generally, when that happens, it means that one party or the other wants to leave that conversation. So you would find when that person comes in, somebody excuses themselves from the conversation. Either they might want to go to the washroom, they might say they're going to the bar, or they're going to check out somebody else. So you have to keep in mind close to, very close, almost connecting, and then there is the open to that allows and invite another person into the conversation. Similarly to the open and closed to, you have the open and closed tree, open and closed four. So you will be able to pick up on those different techniques when going to a networking function, or you might find yourself trying to bore into a very close conversation, and you're technically shunned by the participants because you're not going to fit into their conversation that they're currently having. So body language, understanding eye contact, facial expression, arm positions, and your stance, very, very critical when it comes to the networking event. Now, there are times where you may have to share the stage depending on the event that you're attending. So keep in mind that networking events, there's a two-way conversation. It's not a one-way, right? It's a two-way street. So whilst you're speaking to other people and pitching your ideas and your business, remember that other persons are there to do something very, very, very similar. So when you meet new people, it is important for you to, first of all, be interested before you become interesting. I'm going to repeat that. When you meet new people, it is important for you to become interested in, means become interested in what they're doing or who they are before you become interesting. So you may want to ask many questions or as many questions as possible to demonstrate that you're interested in them, and by return, they become interested in you. So when you're having that conversation, you can, find out. You can find out from the person, if they're a right fit for you, if this conversation or this connection will move past just this evening of networking. So we can look at some tips, steps when it comes to really sharing in great conversation. And this tells us that we need to listen before we speak. So, a generous ears is one of the greatest tools in your networking toolbox. Let me repeat that. A generous ear is one of the greatest tools in your networking toolbox. A good listener establishes trust, connection, and mutual understanding. So if you think about it, quality conversations and relationships can all be connected back to one single activity, being a great listener. So, some tips when it comes to being a great listener to ensure that you come across as a great listener to the person that you'll be connecting with would be, to ask open-ended questions versus closed-ended questions, which means avoid yes or no responses. When you ask a question that only requires a yes or no response, then you find yourself in a position where the conversation becomes extremely short and then it gets awkward. It's almost as if there's going to be this silence where you hear those cricket chirping in the background. Sometimes like in the cartoon when there's a dead silence, you hear the cricket. That is what is going to happen in the conversation, and then you both will awkwardly bow away. When you're in those conversations, listen to the response that the person gives to you. Now, you don't have to go to a networking event with a list of 21 questions. The mere response that the person gives to you will help you at that point to formulate what the next question should be, or even a follow up statement based on what the person would have said. So it is important that you acknowledge when the person gives you an answer, and that can be an acknowledgement in the affirmative, it all depending on what the discussion is all about. But you acknowledge and then you move on with a follow up question. If you fail to do that, then it sounds almost like an interrogation versus having a conversation. Now, the important thing about it in networking, it is how do we ensure that we keep the person talking as much as possible so that we can really get to understand them, and so we can able to know if they're a good fit, if they can connect to what we will want to do. So there are some great questions you can use that can help you to evoke more than just a yes or no response, and gets the person sharing information with you. So you can ask questions around, the size of the organization, in terms of the number of employees that they have, and or you know if they're a medium-sized, large organization, you can ask them about their customer demographics, if they'll be willing to share this information with you. And of course, your question will also depend on how comfortable you feel in that conversation and at that particular moment. You can further, ask questions such as, what got you into business? Or even if, what brought you here tonight at this networking event? Those are some great opening questions, great icebreakers that allows the person to move past the yes or no response, and it really helps to push that conversation forward. Even if I am networking, talking to business owners, one question would ask them, what is your long-term goal? Because it is easier. Everybody has their goals. At least if it's not written down, they have them in their head. And if they don't have their goals in their head nor written down, then definitely you need to, come see me at the office, and I can help you to extract them. They're right there in your head. We will help you to get them out. So think about those questions that you want to ask. You may just want to have about two or three questions in your arsenal so that when you do get to that networking event, you can pull them out as needed. And when you listen to what the person is saying, their response, it will then inform you what else you can actually ask as a follow up. So if you find yourself making a very strong connection with the person that you're speaking to, there's great synergy to come from it. Feel free to ask a couple more personal questions, and this also really depends on the connection you're making. So be sure to keep it positive. And when we say ask personal questions, you're not gonna dive, really deep personally, but it's just using it as a mechanism to discover if you have a mutual interest outside of the business arena, because this is also a fantastic way to establish rapport. So networking questions that you can ask yourself at the end of a particular networking event or discussion. You want to do your self assessment check sheet. So you want to ask yourself, was I more interested or interesting? So we want to make certain that we're interested in the person versus us carrying on. We're lying about our company, about ourselves, about our products, about our service. All right. So in that way, it helps to really strengthen that connection. Once we can keep them engaged, keep them talking, it's all about what we do to ensure we attract the right energy. So, we network to engage and to do business with others, successful, energetic, enthusiastic people. And of course, the people that you meet, they're looking for the same thing. So we have to be mindful of what energy and emotions that we are emoting, because that can be extremely essential to our success, or an element if we have a learning experience. So we don't talk about failure, because we know that failure that I learned today is first attempt in learning. We sometimes have to go through these setbacks in order for us to have a great comeback. So you want to make sure that you put out the right energy, because what you put out there, what vibes you send out, are this is going to be the vibes that you also receive. So if you're not enthusiastic about your business, about your product, about your service, and about what you're pitching, what you're saying, if you come across lethargic, when you're having these conversations, you're not going to attract energetic, forward thinking kind of people. You're going to attract people who just want to have a conversation with somebody for the entire night, and that's where you're stuck probably for the rest of the night. Or you're not going to make the connections you want to make because you weren't confident in pitching your idea and or your product. So instead of attracting new people, new connections, you might just end up repelling those people, and it becomes unproductive attending that event. So you want to pay attention to how you are interacting, your level of energy. You want to remember your approaches to these interactions. You want to keep a similar level of energy throughout the entire networking event and throughout the persons that you speak to. So don't go in and start on a very high note, very energetic, and then by the time the half of the night, you're uh, barely moving, barely having the energy to continue those conversations. So attracting the energy all depends on the energy that you actually put out there. Now, this statement, it's a statement that we come across very often, where it says, "Be careful what you ask for. So when networking, we are presenting our best selves, our most professional selves. So we want to make sure that we don't break the decorum of the event or the decorum of networking by asking for something straight off the bat or straight away. As in any partnership, any relationship, it takes time to get to know and to build trust with someone. So coming right off the bat and making a specific request when you've only just met, it's a sure way to diminish the likelihood of a future engagement. And I would use this typical example is like, going on a first date with a young lady, and then when you go on this date, you just want to kiss her. No, it doesn't work like that. You need to get to know each other, have conversations. Similarly to networking, do not go in for the kill immediately. All right, build a relationship before you ask for something in return. And I would even, I'm a big proponent of giving value before asking for it. All right, giving value before asking for it. So see how you can use that opportunity to get to know the person, understand what they're looking for, and then determine if a part of your network currently, if you can offer some benefit to that relationship, and that will help you to foster stronger relationships moving forward. Notwithstanding, it doesn't necessarily mean because you give somebody something of value, it means that a person needs to reciprocate immediately and with something of equal or higher value. All right, so just keep that in mind. You're doing this based on your intentions to build a lasting relationship with the person that you are networking with. Once you're able to make that connection and you're building that rapport, it is important that we follow up with the viable contacts, the persons who fit within what we do. And you can do this within 24 hours. It is important to do it within that time frame because there's a higher probability that a person would actually remember speaking to you. You have to keep in mind that that person might have spoken to 5, 10, 15, or even more persons during that evening. So you need to always think about how can you mention something about the conversation, something specific about what the person would have said to you that can help you to stand out in that conversation, that can help them to remember what they would have said to you. So you always have to be mindful to sift out the general information and hold on to the specifics. So if you are interested in further developing that relationship, you want to consider, the following steps that you can take. So once you've returned a call or call the person within 24 hours, we establish that connection. You can then take it further. You can invite the person to lunch. If you have a mutual interest in a particular sport or an organization, those are also fantastic ways to take the conversation forward. You can work on connecting via social media, whether it be LinkedIn, whether it be Facebook, etc., so that you can keep in contact. And it also allows you to, help that conversation move forward. You can also set up phone call meetings. You can do Zoom meetings, Google Meet. There's so many different platforms now that allows you to really connect with people and don't have an excuse why you can't move forward. So once you're doing that and you can connect and move that forward, it is all about, how do we lock down those leads. You can lock them down when it comes to following up. with an email, citing something they might have said, and letting them know, what's the next step. So it is important to wait on their response to ensure that the people that you met, they're actually interested in furthering the conversation or furthering the relationship. So before you leave that networking event, ensure that you have the basic contacts that you can collect from the person, and also leave your contact information. So ensure that if you're giving them a card, the card is presentable, it's not crushed or soiled in any way, because a business card is also a representation of you and your product or your service. So if your business card is soiled or crushed, then the person may assume that the level of service or product you give isn't of the highest quality. So you have to be very mindful that there's subtle cues that goes out even from giving a business card. So please keep those in mind. So we're going to be looking at keeping contact keeping those contacts together. And once you cover those areas, it is now time to deepen those conversations and those relationships. So when it comes to keeping the contacts close, the key to a networking fruitful networking or success is understanding that you're working on establishing real deep relationships with your professional contacts. And when we talk about real deep relationships, these are not personal relationships, but building out that relationship that you can understand the needs of that professional contact, and they can also understand what you have that can serve those needs. And in addition, probably what your needs are and what they have that can serve your needs as well. So your network will not serve you if you do not build and cultivate relationships. Very important. Your network will not serve you if you do not build and cultivate relationships. So, in order to do that, to build and cultivate those relationships, it is very, very essential to maintain these relationships by connecting with your contacts regularly. Once a day, could be once a week. It all depends on what we call the degree of hotness. We put our prospects in hot, warm, or cold. So the hot prospects will be persons that really have a good synergy with what you're doing, with what you're looking to get done. Warm could be somebody who might have a good synergy sometime in the future. Cold could be somebody you've met, but you have no mutual interest and or connection, but you still want to keep as part of your network, given the fact that you have other plans in the future. So it all depends on how you would rate or grade the contact. Will tell you if you need to connect with them once a day, once a week, once a month. Just make sure that it's not too excessive, and that the person does not get fed up with. You're not bombarding them with emails and messages about your business, etc. So it would be a very, very good idea to set a calendar day to check in um, with the individual, and based on your conversation, you will know when is a good frequency for you to check in with them. So whatever way you choose, you want to make sure that that effort is continuous and it is consistent. So you want to be very, very consistent, because that really helps to deepen the relationships you're making with your prospects. So, when we're going to networking events, we have to keep in mind that we are there for a particular reason. So I hope that this experience on this webinar would have left you with some really good tools that you can start to incorporate and utilize in your networking events with confidence, and it will allow you to um, remove to some degree some of the shyness, and of course understanding your objectives when attending these networking events. Now there are many different readings that you can uh, access that will help you when it comes to understanding networking and what it takes to be a good networker. There is a first one is what qualities makes a good networker. Uh, this is where you can search for this online by Cleverism 2015. You also have 5 questions you need to ask at a networking event. You can Google some of this information. There is a entrepreneur networking that also would help you to be better prepared when you're going to a business event that can help you to network effectively. There is a book called Seven Steps for Writing a Powerful Elevator Pitch. And this is a book by Gregory, Alyssa Gregory, 2018. So it's very recent um, as well. And this is really going to help you when it comes to working on your elevator pitch. So thank you guys for joining me today on this webinar. It really means a lot to share these lessons with you, especially with the persons who are on the call who are willing to start building stronger relationships, strong connections with like-minded individuals to help you to grow your network. And keep in mind that your network determines your net worth. So go out there, connect as best as you can, join networking events, use these tools effectively so that you can continue to be successful, whether it's in your business, part of the organization you're part of, you're selling a product, an idea, or a service. So on that note, we're going to ask if there are any questions coming from our Zoom room, or I can reach out to my technical team. Do we have any questions coming from online? So I think, yes. Any questions coming from online? Thank you. I'm seeing the pitch from Rennie. So Rennie would have done his pitch and he would have placed it in the chat. So Rennie Lowe is the director of Sustainable Energy Innovative Inc. We'll be launching a new tidal energy solution in collaboration with GMAX Tidal. We're focusing to provide electricity to the national grid. Excellent. So pilot model, we're providing 3 megawatts of power to Essequibo for 1 year free of cost. Sounds excellent. And I'm sure, Rennie, we can definitely have a conversation. I'm sure there are persons who, might be more than willing to connect with this cause. All right. So if there are no questions, no other questions or comments from Zoom, there are none online as well. I would like to say thank you again for investing the last hour of your time with me. I trust that you're able to use the tools and knowledge gain to improve your networking, and of course, by extension, improving your probability of success. On that note, do have a great rest of your Friday afternoon. Do enjoy your weekend. Remember to stay safe, practice or follow those social distancing procedures, policies. Make sure you engage in physical distancing so that you can continue to stay safe. wear your mask, and of course, sanitize and or wash your hands where possible. Do have a fantastic rest of the day.